When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
This is the way it feels to move through summer in Lululemon. Iconic Align softness without the front seam. For our smoothest look and feel ever, summer won't know what hit it. Stretch your limits in the non-stop flexibility of the new Lululemon Align No-Line Pant in select stores and at lululemon.com.
Hello, it's Gareth here. Welcome along to Somewhere on Earth. I'm in London, and it is Tuesday, the 8th of July, 2025. And this week we have Charvi Sachdev, who joins us from Mumbai. And Charvi, it is sounding beautifully evocative there. I can hear some birds coming through the... I can't identify what bird calls they are, but they sound great. But we're not here to talk about the local ecology, important though that is. But I do want to hear about some technology. So what about you? What tech is getting you excited this week?
Well, I have my first Garmin. I've upgraded from a Fitbit after many years, and I swim. So I'm really excited to try it out, except of course it's been super glitchy, mostly because I keep forgetting to turn it on. I keep thinking it's going to figure out for itself I'm swimming, and then it throws off my metrics.
Okay, apart from the glitches, are you getting an idea? Would you want to get your Fitbit back again? Are you missing it, or do you think Garmin is the future for you now?
Oh, Garmin is it. I think I have committed to this relationship.
Yeah, okay. Not that we want to be plugging Garmin too much on this show, but he says I'm going to kind of do the same because I do motorcycling, and the sat-nav I use on my bike, having spent this motorbike, I should say, having spent years using like a mobile phone in a cradle running Google Maps, and then finding that I couldn't see the screen very well, and it's a real problem if it started raining. You have to put it to a rainproof thing, and the screen doesn't. Anyway, so having a Garmin on the bike now, and it's been it's especially ruggedized outdoor Garmin designed for things like motorcycling. Which even includes programming adventurous routes for bikers who just don't want to go on the motorway all day, is great. So yeah, we're having a bit of Garmin love this week, but other tech is available, and we'll try and be fair to lots of other brands.
Yes, in the next episode we'll try. We're also open for sponsorships, like if people want to give us free stuff.
Well, yeah. So if Garmin are listening, I think they already probably owe us a few quid there. Fair enough. A discount on the next sat-nav maybe, or fitness tracker. Good. Well, let me know how you get on with that, Charvi, and let's jump in. Coming up today, an audacious engineering challenge is in the offing as Meta announces plans to build the longest submarine internet cable yet. We'll go through some of the eye-watering stats and assess what this cable means for the internet and all of us. Also today, the app that could help to save the feet of people who have diabetes. Not only that, but we're going to talk about Tinder today and how it's introducing double dating. Charvi has that one for you. And it's all coming up right here on the Somewhere on Earth podcast. So then, that submarine cable, truly a tale of superlatives. We're talking about Project Waterworth here, if you want to look it up. Project Waterworth from Meta. Recently announced, and if successful, it'll be the world's longest submarine cable system. Anniki Mikelsaar is a doctoral researcher at the Oxford Internet Institute at the University of Oxford, and she's been blogging about the project's geopolitical and economic significance.
Cable Waterworth is currently the procured cable that will be probably the largest one in the world in terms of its length. It's looking like it will be longer than 31,000 miles. It's longer than 50,000 kilometers. And the length of the cable system is not only the only remarkable thing about it, of course. That's also the technological advancements within, as well as the places where this cable will go. So what I'm talking about is that it will deploy 24 fiber pairs, which is truly very ambitious for a cable of that length. The cost of the cable is going to be in billions probably, and we're looking at an unprecedented trend of a single company owning now a single contract cable, which is intended for internal use. So those are the main things about this.
Yeah, exactly. So most, if not all, of the existing ventures are multiply owned, they have multiple owners. But let's really do the basics here. What's the route that the cable will take?
So the cable will start on the east coast of the United States, starting from Virginia Beach, as of now at least. And then it will go down to Brazil, to Fortaleza, and from there down to South Africa, and from South Africa up to India, and from India down to Australia, and from Australia up again to California, so to the west coast of the United States.
Wow, so almost around the world, really.
Yeah,
apart
exactly.
from the continent of the USA. But, that is, it's phenomenal. Presumably then it would be built in phases, or do we not know that? Perhaps we don't know what Meta's said about how they'll build it.
Yeah, it's a relatively new announcement, and we don't know the details about it, but it is highly likely that it will indeed be built in phases and not in one go, simply because of the scale of the project.
What is significant about this route, apart from obviously the sheer ambition and the length of this route, but what about the routing itself? What does that tell us?
Perhaps I will talk a little bit about why the routing is so remarkable in terms of the submarine cable industry. So traditionally, cables, because cable laying is a highly expensive undertaking, there's a lot of different stages to the process. There's route surveying, there's cable laying, etc. It's a very, very expensive undertaking. And for this reason, it has traditionally followed the cables themselves physically, have taken safe paths following traditional telegraph cable and later coaxial cable trajectories. So usually transatlantic cables have gone from the US mainland to then the UK or Europe. However, as we're now witnessing an age where companies, and especially hyperscale companies like Meta and Google primarily, have enough capital and appetite for risk-taking, we are seeing them build on routes that are highly risky and where nobody has ever built cables before. So we don't traditionally see south-to-south cables for this reason. We don't actually know about the seabed conditions. The sea is relatively opaque and we don't simply know what's down there. What are the seabed conditions, how soft it is, whether abrasion is a risk to a greater degree or lesser degree. Small little considerations like that, which will prove to be quite consequential actually in the end, because it is, after all, a lot of money that is being released into the seabed, if I may say so. Yeah, to come back to why this route is so special, it is because now it's possible, but the reason why it's being taken from this unconventional way is to also avoid geographical hotspots such as Red Sea, as well as to avoid Europe. And there's reasons why Europe is avoided, which I think is might be worth revisiting later.
Well, that would be interesting. So there's a lot of kind of strategy there then. So avoiding the Red Sea, because presumably it's just geopolitically an unstable or relatively unstable part of the world, and we know that undersea cables in that region have been cut or interfered with. Is that one reason, for instance, for avoiding the Red Sea?
I think that's definitely one of the key reasons, yes, why the Red Sea is perhaps a place to be avoided. Another reason is that it's not only cable cutting that is the risk, it's just that a lot of congestion is currently taking place in this very narrow sea, and this is not safe should there be any kind of disruption to cables in that area. So we're not only talking about hostile action, which is of course the case to some degree, but we're talking about natural disasters, etc. A lot can happen, and if most of the global connectivity goes through this choke point, it's just not a good idea for global resilience.
So yeah, they're balancing risk there. So what's wrong with Europe then? Why are they avoiding Europe?
That's a good question. Well, first of all, the most easiest and straightforward reason is because there are already loads of cables that go from the US as well as now South America to Europe. But another reason is because there is a lot of appetite for lower latency, high bandwidth connection in the global south, first of all. And second of all, the global south will be important for AI training, for data, and there's different regulations from Europe, and oftentimes in countries that are not in Europe. So Europe is quite specific in terms of its regulatory approaches.
So that's Anniki Mikelsaar, and she was talking to us there from the Oxford Internet Institute. So from Mumbai, let's get some thoughts from you, Chavi. And it seems that we don't know too much about the cable's route, but India seems to be involved, and it would be amazing if it was if it was on its way from the United States to Australia. If it didn't stop off at India, something would be very strange. I think it's going to link some data centres in India. And cross, probably.
I would be surprised, yes. Who doesn't want better internet? In fact, it's funny because we are the outsourcing capital of the world, and we do so much heavy lifting for the tech industries, and our internet is terrible.
And obviously I know there are going to be all kinds of undersea cables coming in and out of India already. But what about where you are in Mumbai? It's on the coast. I assume there must be some landing stations either somewhere in Mumbai or nearby.
We have a few. We have 3, I think. But strangely enough, it turns out the big one, it turns out that I live 200 meters away from one of the major undersea cables. The building is just up the road from me, and for many years I used to wonder what it was, because it's really nondescript. There are no signboards, but there are 100 air conditioners, and then there are satellite dishes and antenna all over the building.
Oh, isn't that fact? I love that. So I wasn't expecting you to say that you had something quite that close. So this was an anonymous-looking building. You've often, I guess, walked past it and thought, what do they need all that aircon for?
So many times, and I never see a single human being. So it's always been really mysterious. Then I found out this is where my fiber optic cables are coming up.
You're looking at internet infrastructure right there. But how did you find out eventually that that's what was going on in the building, given there isn't a great big sign above it saying this is a cable landing site, internet exchange or whatever?
So a friend claims he told me about it already, and I clearly blocked it out, one who lives in the neighborhood. But I did research actually for a BBC program about cables, did research on the internet, and then I was like, oh, duh. That's what it is. I've been looking at it for years.
How handy. I'll tell you what, it's always good when there's a little bit of ICT infrastructure just up the road, especially journalistically, because I have to say I was doing a programme for the BBC as well, funny enough, about... anyway, I won't get into what the whole programme was about too much, but other than we were talking about mobile phone masts, and ultimately it was about the shift from 5G to 6G, and I thought, it'd be just handy if there was like, one of these towers with some mobile phone antennas just somewhere near me. And I know it's radio, but I thought, you want to go and stand in front of it and describe it and say, this boring looking building with some boring looking plate-like things on the top that are actually mobile phone antennas might be boring looking, but this is what's making our mobile phones work. This is a really exciting, important site, So yeah, there was one just a few minutes from my house. It was one of the
amazing.
Laziest assignments I've ever done, but there you go. It all worked out in the end.
Yeah, don't tell my editors that either.
Yeah, indeed. They don't need to know, and otherwise they might reject my expenses claim. No, only joking. Nothing dodgy going on. Great. Okay, well, that's a lovely example. So just before we leave this subject of you and your, as it turns out, internet infrastructure down the road from you, what is your internet like? I would hope that you must have some of the best internet on the face of the planet in that case.
You would think so, but no, not at all.
Something's very wrong with this world, Charlie.
I'm waiting for the Meta cable to come and upgrade my experience.
Okay, no pressure, Meta, but Charlie needs you. Let's hope your internet holds up for this next item.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Introducing the new Volvo XC90 with 7-seat versatility, Google built-in, and advanced safety features for all your precious cargo. The new Volvo XC90, designed for life. Visit volvocars.com/US to learn more.
Yes, we're going to talk now about the app that uses, guess what? Well, AI, of course, to help save people's limbs, specifically the feet of diabetic people. Diabetes can affect the feet, leading to foot ulcers. The app diagnoses diabetic foot ulcers in just seconds. At the recent Rio Web Summit, Anya's been finding out more from the company LookInside, and the CEO and founder is Dr. Hermilio Carvalho.
I don't know if the listeners ever heard of a diabetic person having problems with their feet, and that's sadly more common than normal, and we're trying to prevent that by using computer vision and AI. So we've built a proprietary technology for the detection of diabetic foot risk based on images. So we take pictures of the foot, and we use that to make a comprehensive foot evaluation. We're looking for wounds, looking for cracks, looking for fungal infections, or anything that can lead to an amputation.
So what's the current way of diagnosing this?
So the current way of evaluating a diabetic foot takes about 40 minutes. And you take the patient as an outpatient. So he comes into the office and he gets his foot evaluated for a whole 40 minutes. And that includes also the orientation and the full consultation. And it's the best way to do that. We cannot replace that. But it takes 40 minutes and we have a huge number of patients. Right now we have 537 million diabetics in the whole world. How can you do that to everyone? And every one of these needs a foot examination. And we can do that in 60 seconds using our technology. So we do triage. We take those patients that have the most risk and we detect them as soon as possible.
So how does this technology work? You're taking images and then what you feed it into an AI model that you've designed?
Exactly it. We have a proprietary database of foot images and many research partners in Brazil and out of Brazil. And what we've built is this artificial intelligence based on two technologies. So it's mostly machine learning powered by CNN, which is a convolutional neural network. And that comes together to create a foot examination. I mean, to really detect what's present at the foot that presents the most risk.
And how accurate is it? Because it's all well doing it quickly and what sounds like more cheaply, but if it's not very good, it's not going to be any use.
That's actually a very good consideration because I can do a quick answer, but it's wrong, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, we have actually great accuracy. So our latest algorithm can detect the presence of ulcers in feet with I think it was 90, I can get an actual figure, and it's 92.1% accuracy. And our sensibility is at right now 88%. Along with other clinical indicators, that is actually very promising. We're looking at a triage exam in which the most triage exams take about 70% sensitivity, and we're looking at high sensitivity with very high accuracy.
So are you saying the AI is better than you are?
Not really. I mean, if you're a doctor and you can't see that the patient has a wound, you may have a problem with your eyesight. It's not better. I'd say it's more adaptable, because with this technology, you can take 10,000 patients and you send the examination to them, and the AI is going to detect which one of them have wounds and which one don't. And that's actually the first step. A doctor is going to take about maybe 2 months to see all those 1,000 patients. We can do that in 60 seconds. So that's the gain of scale.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you wouldn't need a doctor to do the scanning and the imaging and the collecting of the data as well. So therefore, the limited number of endocrinologists who are looking after the diabetics would have their time better spent elsewhere.
Exactly it. And I'm a doctor myself. I've seen several diabetic patients with several degrees of foot ulcers in the office. And it's really something when you can actually know which ones have their foot problems ahead of time. And that's what we're looking for, scale, because it doesn't compete with doctors, it makes doctors better.
And what's the cost of it? Because, I mean, it sounds, to tick so many boxes, it really sounds though it could revolutionize diabetic management of patients. But if it's too expensive, you can't get it out to the people who need it.
So AI for healthcare is actually becoming a whole new sector of the budget. So you can't really compare with the doctor expenses. Okay, how many doctors is this going to replace? Because it's not going to replace doctors. But as a new expense, it is actually quite low. So we're negotiating some contracts at about $1 per patient per month. And that's actually cheap license compared to the cost of amputation when you look at it for at the global scale of it.
Hermilio Carvalho there, talking to Anya at the recent Rio Web Summit. And Xavi, you've covered AI in different contexts before relating to diabetes. So this is retinopathy detection, isn't it? So different parts of the body from the feet, obviously. But tell me a bit about this.
So retinopathy strikes a lot of people who have diabetes. It affects their optic nerves, and most people don't know it's happening until their vision has narrowed substantially. So the darkness creeps in and just starts to blur and darken the edges. So people adjust. We're very good at figuring out binocular vision even when it's compromised. And then they start losing depth and also the field. And by the time they figure it out, it's too late and they can't save their eyesight from degenerating. So this hospital I visited in Bangalore has figured out with AI, doing a lot of machine learning, feeding their computers all these different images of the retinopathy and training it to quickly, again, in seconds, diagnose it when people come for an eye scan. And they're so determined to help that they've rolled it out. It's portable. They take it out and do eye camps when people have diabetes. And sometimes it even works in reverse. They'll do an eye checkup and say, you should get checked, you have your blood sugar checked, because you may need to check if you're diabetic.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, there are lots of different kinds of technology out there, both for detecting the retinopathy that you've been talking about there, Xavi, and diabetic ulcers. And I suppose certainly in our little two-way there from Rio, we just wanted to give you an example of one of them that caught Anya's eye as she was going around the exhibition space there. So we're not in any way saying that these are the only ones, but they're ones that we've certainly encountered in making this podcast, and you had that example yourself, as obviously, Xavi. So from what you could see when you went to look at this technology in action, what kind of difference was it making? Or was it like you couldn't really tell what difference it would make because it was very much about people's lives further down the track after this intervention?
They're hopeful. I think they're trying to get people to understand the link and then monitor and also control their sugar levels so that it doesn't progress and make things worse for them. And just underscoring that there are ramifications to not checking your diet, and with a lot of empathy, but also then science and images and stuff on the screen that reinforces the message.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
On WhatsApp, no one can see or hear your personal messages. Whether it's a voice call, message, or sending a password. To WhatsApp, it's all just this. So whether you're sharing the streaming password in the family chat or trading those late-night voice messages that could basically become a podcast, your personal messages stay between you, your friends, and your family. No one else. Not even us. WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone.
So finally, Chavi, can we talk about dating? I mean, I don't mean with each other. It's a bit awkward, wasn't it, the way that came out? But anyway, swiftly on. So from an editorial point of view, we're going to talk about
editorially,
this
dating.
Step forward for other people who go on this thing called dating. And it's because this swipe culture, it's people say it's a little, can be a bit stressful.
Yeah.
It can make you feel a bit rubbish if you get a few rejections and so on. And Tinder, good old Tinder, is coming up with some new feature now, just to try and make it all a bit, a bit more fun and, a bit less icky, So what's all this about?
So I think there are two things going on. They're trying to appeal to Gen Z, who has, I hear, I'm not Gen Z, so I only rely on reports that they've gone off.
I'm definitely not.
They've gone off online dating a little bit. And the second, of course, is to introduce a layer of safety. So it is a little rife. You first have to have a friend or two who are also single, and then they're on Tinder looking also for a match. And then you can pair up with other people who've signed up in groups as well. So you don't just, you double date in pairs or in trios. So I would add a friend and we'd be buddies in the women looking for men section. And then we would only see profiles where there are two men looking for women who have also signed up to double date. So maybe safety in numbers and more fun and more things to talk about when you go out, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you can imagine, maybe it's just all a bit more relaxed and a bit less performative, and perhaps for people on each side of the dating fence, as it were, in these encounters, maybe because everyone's just like being themselves a bit more. I've got a feeling I'd be better on a double date. You just, I don't know, there's just three people around the table instead of just another person. And you can, I don't know, I'd probably fool around a bit more and just be more myself.
Yeah.
Which could be a bad or a good thing. I don't know. Depends what people like.
It could turn into like the couple's version of Pictionary or Taboo. When you're paired with someone you know so well, they finish your sentences and guess the clues. It may actually make it more stressful. Who knows? Maybe it'll be amazingly fun for the people who go out there
of course.
with a friend.
Yeah, it would be all right, wouldn't it? And of course I fully get the safety point. I think that's probably the most valuable part of this story. I mean, I suppose if I were to do this double dating, I don't know if there's functionality on the app where it would pick, say, a less attractive person to be the one you go for the double date with. So, somebody who makes you look good. Maybe is that a horribly shallow and vain thing to say? Don't we all just secretly think that? If you turned up for the double date and the person on your side of the course, as it were, in this particular game of doubles was just stunning, and you're thinking, no.
Oh no.
Anyway,
yeah, like a little when Harry met Sally, when you end up going for the wrong person.
That's the thing, anyway, so that's just because I'm horrible. I might be secretly hoping that, but at the same time, if they had dashingly beautiful looks, I might be thinking, I can score on personality here. So,
indeed. But dating is very fraught, so you've got to put your best foot forward and maybe your best friend forward as well. I don't know.
Yeah. So, is it double date, double the stress, or double date, half the stress? Or, I don't know, just hope that one of your friends sets you up with their sister or brother or somebody. Anyway, what can I say? But that's a really interesting idea. So Do we know at this stage what the reception's been, or do we know anything more about this story, or is this just something they brought in and then time will tell? Is it one of those kinds of stories?
It is. It's had limited rollout, only a few countries, and in I think 2016 or 17, Tinder had rolled out a different feature called Tinder Social, which then they closed because it was very confusing about to people about what the feature was actually supposed to do. Were you networking? Were you looking for someone to chat with? Are you looking for a new friend in a new city? And it had really low uptake, so they shut it, and now perhaps this is their way of addressing or bringing something like that back to life in a new avatar.
Yeah, okay. Well, it'll be interesting, as I say. Time will tell. It'll be interesting to see how that all works out. Thank you very much for that, Charvi.
So fun.
I enjoyed that.
Always talk about it. Maybe some of our listeners will try it and tell us what they think.
Oh, we'd love it. Yes. In that case, we should tell them how to get in touch, as if they didn't know already. So, do you know, we're probably about the only podcast that gives out an email address, because we respect you, dear listener, that you may not always want to be using the socials. So, yeah, if that's you, hello@somewhereonearth.co, hello@somewhereonearth.co. And we're on WhatsApp, code 447486329484. And we're pretty easy to find out on all your favourite social platforms. Just do SOEP or Soap Tech to find us. We won't be far away. And, here's the thing, right? We also would love you, if please, to tell your friends to subscribe. So if you want to subscribe, just the best way to do it is to search for this, right? pod.fan. And then Somewhere on Earth podcast, and then it'll take you to a landing page. Really easy to subscribe to you. Sorry, if only for your sake. No, I'm afraid it's more than that. $10 a month, and that gets you a bit of extra bonus material and a lot of love from us. So we'd really appreciate it. And our YouTube channel is growing as well. So please go to our YouTube channel and don't just watch it and forget about it. We, subscribe and like all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, we just don't get all the hits and everything we need from YouTube. And thank you very much to Roost, by the way. They're our technology partner. They connect technologies and people generating intelligent and sustainable solutions through edge computing. That's Roost. Thank you, Roost. And the production manager is Liz Turi. Our editor is Anya Literovich. We are on the Evergreen Podcast Network. I'm Gareth Mitchell. You've heard from Charvi. And this is Somewhere on Earth, the Global Technology Podcast.
This is History's Heroes. People with purpose, brave ideas, and the courage to stand alone, including a pioneering surgeon who rebuilt the shattered faces of soldiers in the First World War.
He would look at these men and he would say, "Don't worry, Sonny, you'll have as good a face as any of us when I'm done with you."
Join me, Alex von Tunzelmann, for History's Heroes. Subscribe to History's Heroes wherever you get your podcasts.